Welcome to ShiftWatch. I'm your host, Starbuck, and Happy New Year, by the way. In this episode, as many of you are sensing, the Earth plane is undergoing an energetic shift in vibration, and it's playing out in a splitting of dimensional realities. Here is a replay of a brilliant explanation from Sarah Elkhaldy of the phenomenon taking place, whether you are paying attention or not. Next, sunspots resumed a higher level of activity in greater numbers over the past few days, and these are the conditions we expect the first week of 2025. Dr. Tamitha Skov has a scientific update of what's occurring and when to expect this electromagnetic energy to make its way to Earth. Then, with all the discussions about drones, I pulled this clip out of the archives to help you discern the differences between drones, aircraft, telomeres, and other interstellar conveyances. This is to demonstrate one of these forms as we should expect to experience with greater reporting of multidimensional contact. And finally, here's a clip from my interview with Adam Rickus on his YouTube channel, Galactic Safari, where we touch on inner Earth, telos, and others that are having multidimensional experiences, among other things. Expect a follow-up with him in the upcoming weeks.
Idea of a timeline split between a third dimensional and fifth dimensional version of Earth is not new, and it did not come from this age. It has been tracked in mysticism and known as streams of consciousness. One stream of consciousness which is ascending and is following the evolutionary pathway for the human consciousness, and one pathway or one stream of consciousness that is fragmenting itself into chaos, otherwise known as entropy. So these two streams of consciousness, one that is ascending and one that is descending, are known as the regenerative stream and the degenerative stream of consciousness. And in the degenerative stream of consciousness, the one that is left behind and known as the third dimensional Earth, that timeline is going to be coexisting side by side with the higher timeline, the one that is ascending and the one that is following the regenerative stream of consciousness. So these two timelines are splitting, no different than how a cell divides itself through the process of mitosis. And yet they will remain parallel to one another and even look like they are interacting with one another for quite some time until they fully polarize into their own curriculum. So this is really about curriculum. And when we're talking about a regenerative stream of consciousness, one that is following the evolutionary impulse within the spirit of this age, and is following the evolutionary pathway of ascension for our human consciousness, coexisting side by side with the de-evolutionary pathway. What we're really looking at is our level of embodiment between these two forces, love and fear. Love, in this case, is representing consciousness. The energy that is driving the split in timelines is the same energy that creates the mitosis of cell division. There are always spiritual forces behind the momentum to split timelines. And what those forces can be reduced to is love and fear, order and chaos, consciousness and unconsciousness, syntropy and entropy, free will and predeterminism. I could go on, but you get my point. At the end of an age, there is always a splitting of worlds into two separate time-space realities that still coexist with each other until they fully solidify into their new dimension. One timeline represents the people who are purifying their vibration through becoming conscious. And the other timeline represents the cognitive dissonance that creates the victim-perpetrator cycle. The lower timeline will eventually fully lock itself into a victim-perpetrator identity, where they solidify into a victim mentality. The shadow side of this, of course, is that we do not want others to exist. So we play both parts of this vicious cycle out in real time. We play the victim out and we play the perpetrator out at the very same time, repeating this karma into a downward spiral trajectory. When a being elevates their consciousness, they are raising their frequency. And when they are raising their frequency, they start to occupy a different level of time-space reality. So they begin to start creating a timeline that can now suit their consciousness and their frequency at a better level of their curriculum. Because we are always learning lessons, therefore our reality and our realm will always reflect the best domain and the most suitable external conditions to match our level of awareness and to match our level of curriculum that we have vibrationally lined up with.
Our sun continues the holiday fireworks this week. As we take a look at our Earth-facing disk, we had been watching this cluster of regions over the past week as it's been giving us big M-class flares at the R1 to R2 level radio blackout. But this week we have region 3936, 3938, and region 3939 joining the fray. These regions have been firing off big solar flares and solar storms. In fact, back on the 28th, we started really seeing some activity from region 3939 or 8, and then 39 gets in the fray, and you can watch them both kind of launching some junk here. Well, at one point they launched this big solar storm. Check this out in coronagraphs. See this massive halo? This is definitely an Earth-directed solar storm, and we'll talk more about it in a minute because this one could actually hit Earth by New Year's. So we'll talk about that in a sec when we get into the models, but that's the first of several solar storms that are going to hit Earth. You can watch these regions continue to fire over the next 24 hours. And on the eve of the 29th, region 3939 fires again. Here's another partial halo. It's much more wispy than the first one. And that's because this thing keeps firing off all of its material. But this is also an Earth-directed solar storm. So it's now going to be on the heels of the first one. And this could hit on New Year's Day. So welcome to January 1st in the new year. Now, on top of that, we had to have more activity from these regions. Watch region 3932 and 3936 here early on the 30th. Pow! Both of them fire together and give us an X-class flare. This is an R3 level radio blackout over the Asian Pacific. Now, we didn't get a big solar storm launch with this, so we don't have yet another Earth-directed solar storm. But with all of this activity on the Earth-facing disk and new regions going to be rotating into Earth view, you can see region 3943 here firing off some junk here off to the side. That particular region might be old region 3917, which was very active last rotation. So my goodness, the storm potential and the flare potential keeps coming. So get ready, Aurora photographers, because you're going to have a lot of fun over New Year's and possibly in through next week as well. And now taking a closer look at those solar storms that are on their way to Earth, we switch to our solar storm prediction model, Enlil. Now this is NOAA's version of the model. The top panel's density, the bottom panel's velocity. You're looking down at the sun from the North Pole with Earth being off to the right. And as we begin to set this solar storm model in motion, you can see both solar storms. There's the first one being launched. There's the second one being launched. As you can see, they're both headed toward Earth, with the first one being much larger than the second. The first one looks like it's going to hit Earth about 1700 UTC on the New Year's Eve. So this could be a really beautiful impact right for New Year's Eve. We have almost a new moon, and this could mean Aurora photographers could get a gorgeous show. Plus, after that, if we take a look at the intensity here, you can see just shortly thereafter we get the impact from the second one, and that one will be about 600 UTC on New Year's Day. So this is what NOAA believes will be the impact. You've got a nice little window there. So let's hope that that's the case. If we switch to our NASA's version of the model, again, you're looking down at the sun from the North Pole with Earth being off to the right. As I set this solar storm model in motion, you can see these two solar storms being launched. The first one looks like it's going to hit Earth right here about noon on the 31st, so that's a little bit sooner than what NOAA believes is going to be the case. But the second solar storm, if I can get it to move forward here just a little bit, let's see. Move forward for me. There you go. That solar storm looks like it could hit, really about midnight. So essentially as the clock strikes 12. So aurora photographers, either way, whether it's going to be kind of earlier on New Year's Eve through the New Year's Day, the window is pretty well set that we're going to have some decent chance for aurora here over New Year's Eve and New Year's Day before things calm down. And again, we could have a bigger chance for more solar storms later in the week because we do have new active regions rotating into Earth view.
I don't really want to speak intelligently about things that I have not experienced myself, but all I can appreciate is that there is a circle of people that have gone through those experiences without a doubt and come back better and enlightened and knew the downloads they received were for the betterment of everybody. But there were people that have had unfortunate experiences and it got the better of them. I can't deny that. It's just not where I focus my attention because I know where we're going. But we're not immune from the residue left over by that negative stuff. I don't think anything new is being introduced because of the current vibration of the earth. But again, we can't get past the crap that's been here for a while.
I think that's something really important that we should I should get your kind of perspective on and how we can potentially guide people who start looking into all this information, right? And because I'm with you, I really gravitate towards, first of all, like the direct contact experiences where there's been an exchange of information, right? Those are the ones that I'm kind of looking for. It's like, great, what can we kind of learn? Like, how can we cooperate with these beings and, you know, explore together in the future and all that good stuff. But yeah, like anyone who starts looking into all these topics is eventually going to come across a bunch of fear-related stuff. Like, do you have any advice? Like, just be aware of it, you know, but just keep looking for the stuff that resonates with you? I don't know. What do you think?
When I decided to do podcasts, because 2 years ago I said I never wanted to be a talking head and I was never going to do this. And that's when the universe laughed and said, yeah, watch this. Now, it was about the same time as Dave Wallace and I were getting better acquainted. And so for us to share our experiences there to begin with, well, that was easy for us to do. We weren't going to be the host and bring on guests. No, let's just talk about what we do. And we're on a Zoom platform. You're all live. You want to ask us a question? Here's the spot to do it. Take your shot. So over the last 2 years, we've got an archive of at least once or twice a week. We just kind of left it open to people who had the same things going on and nowhere to talk about it. Did we care whether we were going to get tens of thousands of people? We did not. We cared about getting the right ones who were looking for the next place they could come and express their opinions and experiences in places that they weren't going to be ridiculed. They didn't have to risk that here. No, your experience might be crazy, but listen to ours.
Yeah. And so just on, so Dave actually received like a ton of information, right? It was like was he communicating telepathically or verbally? Do you know? I can't remember
I
that
think there was
detail
a
from.
combination of it in his case. When I finally got a chance to, it really wouldn't be until almost a year later that I
Mm,
would really get a chance to hear Dave's story. And it was because I think I was heading somewhere to Phoenix, and I had a 3-day window where I had some time to spend with Dave at his place. So he's got this wonderful garden next to his pie shop. For 3 days, we sat out there and he told me his story. So the very first moment, morning, he came out of the pie shop and had an armful of these foam boards, artist foam boards, probably 12 by 18. Each one of them had a different illustration of something that had happened. Amazing. Just to show us what had happened. The illustrations were incredible. And then he had journal entries and some light language that he had written on top of all that. The day was full of stuff. When we got back the next morning, he had another armful of stuff that he had illustrated. I was blown away by all of the stuff he'd gone through and the illustrations. And if you liked physics in that part at all, especially advanced physics, he had formulas he had written in that I can appreciate and understand, but I don't understand.
yeah.
Advanced things where programs for telemetry, Dave has downloads for programs that's going to help us navigate through space so that we won't fly through a planet or bounce off a star. No, it's already been preloaded in Dave's head.
Yeah, I think that's something people don't quite appreciate about stellar navigation is that like it's very similar to like an Earth airport. You're gonna need to have like space traffic controllers and you have to like I've heard you have to like go into hyperspace a certain distance away from planets so you don't affect them.
Well,
There's
yes, that's still very 3D thinking because we
right.
think you're going to go from this spot to this spot and I'm going to go like that. No. There are black holes. And
Mm,
there are other places for us to navigate our way through the galaxy. And that's why we get there so quickly. I had seen finally an example of it in the sky. I was near Shasta one night, and there was somebody else that was there who wasn't there to observe the orbs all over this property. We went there to see, and always are never disappointed. He came to look at the sky that night. He brought a new piece of equipment, and he picked the right spot to look at in the sky, or clearly we were meant to see this. While he was looking at this particular piece, he had zoomed out and we could see where there were three craft. Looked like they were kind of in a triangle formation. And while these things were there and moving a little bit, all of a sudden you saw what looked like a circle take shape and open. And all of a sudden these three craft went in it, and then this thing disappeared and gone. Now, he videotaped it. He took some screenshots of it so we could see what we saw. And oh yeah, there is it's not a black hole, a time warp, or whatever you want to call it. It's one of those holes that get you from here to wherever it's going without having to fly off and not knowing where we're going. The craft just disappeared.
Yeah,
I've seen some other renditions of the same thing. There's one I found, I think it was in Australian skies, where all of a sudden you saw this little tiny purple ball get really big, and then all of a sudden this thing fly out of it. What?
I've heard a lot of different things about the means of navigating from a stellar perspective. Yeah, like you were saying, opening portals,
Yes.
also like enveloping a ship in a toroidal frequency map. So like you said, it's not hyperspace or hyperspeed. You're literally like changing the frequency of where everything inside that toroid exists. And so
Yes.
you're
Good for you.
matching the frequency of a new destination, basically.